Going to happen right now. If you want to make sure your camera's off, that is perfectly fine, but this is also to make sure that this information can be shared with as many people as possible. And with that being said, I'm going to now ask all of our panelists to introduce themselves. If you could say your name, where you're from, and what school you're going to be attending. And in the order that I see right now, Jayla, you're up first.
Hi, my name is Jayla Hamlin. I'm from Kenya, but I'm currently living in Maryland right now, and I will be going to Temple University.
Awesome. EJ, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Ijoma. I go by EJ. I'm from Tanzania, Nigeria, residing in the state of Maryland, and I'll be going to George Washington University.
Doreen?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Doreen Kemera, and I'm from Tanzania, and I'm currently living in Tanzania, and I'll be going to Middlebury College in Vermont.
Miriam?
Hello, I'm Raja Ukondwa. I'm from Tanzania, but I live in Maryland, and this fall I'm going to University of Maryland.
And last but not least, Nyla.
Hello, my name is Nyla Zidikari. My family is from Tanzania, but I'm currently living in Maryland. And this fall, I'll be in Columbia University. Thank you.
Amazing. And just so you guys know, the first half of this meeting will be prepared questions that we have for our panelists. If you have any questions, we ask that you save those questions until the second half, where you'll be able to either unmute and ask those questions by simply raising your hand, or you could put them in the chat. So if you do have any ideas or any questions, either hopefully wait and we can answer them preemptively, but if we don't end up answering them, there will be a section in time for that. And with all of that being said, we're just going to get started, and any order of you guys can go up with this, but what was the main reason for you guys choosing your college?
I could go first. So there's two main reasons for me. It was the location of my school and the resources my school would provide. So Columbia University is located in New York City, which is a major city here in the United States. And around me, in addition to the resources my school could provide me, having those resources of the city at my fingertips was going to be very beneficial. So I really like that aspect of the school, as well as the research opportunities that my school could provide me in itself, because my school is a major research university, which just means that it allocates a lot of resources to conducting research for the students and professors at the school. So those were the two biggest reasons for me choosing my school.
What she said, my main biggest reason for why I chose George Washington was really just because of the resources and what they had to offer. I think it's important to choose a school that is catering to your needs, and that's what George Washington did. George Washington catered to my needs with it being in DC, and DC being where there's a lot of governmental jobs. As far as my plans are after college is to aim for a governmental job. Praying for like the White House, but yeah, with George Washington has a lot of connections with the White House, with other companies such as NIH, the CIA, and other international things. So that was my biggest thing about it, just the opportunities after college.
Okay, so I'll go next. So in addition to what Nyla and Ijoma said, so I would agree with them that I was looking at what opportunities could the college offer me. And in terms of Middlebury College, I was looking at what programs do they have beyond the academic aspect of regarding the major that I wanted to major in. So for example, they had like global scholar programs where my scholars could be part of a year-long program, and it exposes them to either study abroad programs or even within the Middlebury community. So things that could enrich your academic experience. But another thing that I really looked into was I wanted to go to a liberal arts college. So meaning apart from the major that I have, and also gain insight, or rather my academic would not only be tied onto my major that I'm majoring in, but I could have exposure. For example, if I wanted to be fluent in a language, which Middlebury is known for, it has one of the most recognized language programs in America. So that's another thing that I considered. And lastly, of course, I did look at the financial aid aspect. So how does financial aid look like, especially to international students? Because for some colleges, they didn't really offer so much full aid to international students. They could offer partial aid, but then And for example, Middlebury had a commitment to meeting 100% demonstrated need. So those are like the aspects that I looked at.
I can go next. So for me, I looked at the financial aid aspect. I looked at how far I was from home, and I also looked at the majors and like how it would affect my major. Temple is like 2 hours away from my house, so it was not that far. And then also, it was the school that gave me the most money, so that kind of caught my eye more than any other school. Also because I am out of state, so the more money it gave me, like the more I was able to pay and like not struggling being in debt later on in life. But also the majors that it had was also, and like how strong their programs were really good for my major because I'm doing psychology, and their psychology program is really good, and they have like a lot of internships with, you can like work at like a therapist institute, you can work with like mental health patients, like all those type of stuff. And then also you can combine a bunch of majors with like other programs that like have nothing to do with your major, like musical theater, which is my minor. So it's like I can combine those two and still make it work and graduate on time. And they also like really work well to help people graduate on time and help with money as well. That's why I picked Temple as my school.
Okay, I can go. I picked UMD for multiple reasons. One of them is the location. I wanted to be not too far away, not anywhere like on the West Coast, not somewhere where I'd have to like take a flight, take a plane to visit home. But I still wanted to have enough distance so that I could get new experiences, learn new things, and not feel like I'm just like 5 minutes away from home. And UMD is the perfect distance for that. Apart from that, it also has a lot of educational opportunities. Their business program is really highly ranked, and that is the major that I plan on switching into later on at my stay at UMD. It also has a lot of, like, apart from the education and like the very good like staff, it has a lot of other extracurricular activities that I found interesting in high school, like cheerleading and theater. I want to be able to go to a college where I can explore these other aspects that are not just educational, so that I can enrich myself as well as like just the educational part. So I found that UMD would have a great balance of that, and those are some reasons why I chose UMD.
All right, thank you guys so much for your information. Also, I just realized I failed to introduce myself a little bit, but I'm sure as you know, hi everyone, my name is Raja Ukondwa. I'm a current 1L, or I just finished my first year at Harvard Law School. So any information that I may give might be a little bit different because this will be about the process of applying to grad school, if that is something that you're thinking about. However, I do think just one last thing that I wanted to add on, I also went to UMD for undergrad, and I think it's really good where if you are thinking of maybe grad school for like medical school or law school or any type of like extra degree going after, that you think about how much longer you're going to be in school and then maybe think about the financial aspect of that. I think for me, a really big thing was going to UMD to spend as little money as possible in undergrad because I knew from the very first day that I'd be going to law school. So that way I could be a little bit more flexible with the law schools that I chose to go to. And with that being said, I would love to get now into more personal questions. And the first question that I have is starting from the very beginning, your freshman year of high school. What do you think was the biggest thing that set you up for success during your time for the college application process? And to start, we'll go with Jayla.
I think so for me, starting my freshman year online kind of really set me back from the college application process because I couldn't meet with my counselors or the college lady all in person. It was more of me just trying to like look it up on Google and figure out what I had to do. But once I got in person my sophomore year, that's when I realized how I needed to get my stuff, which was figuring out who I wanted to do my recommendations, looking for colleges, like figuring out what I wanted to do for my major. It was really just setting like a timeline of, oh, I need to figure out what I want to do here, how I'm gonna get how I want to get what I want for my college applications, figuring out like it was more just like figuring out the steps and like of the college application process and figuring out how I need to get there and asking help and not making sure that like I'm gonna wait to the last minute to do everything. It was more of thinking ahead, persistent on how I want to do to get my college application process on time, and like figuring out if I want to do like early decision, all this and that. It was more just thinking ahead and not thinking last minute.
Definitely can agree with that. It can be really stressful when you have to deal with everything your very last year. By no means are we saying freshman year when you go in, you need to know everything down. At least having that plan and thinking a little bit ahead of what might set you up for the best would be really great. And then moving on to Doreen for this question.
Okay, so on my side, I'd say one thing that I learned about applying to US universities is that the application process is more of a holistic process in terms of that they do not only focus on your academics, rather they look at what extra are you doing outside of your classes, what activities are you doing. So I'd say one, of course, focusing on my academics, so making sure that I have an upward trend throughout my high school years and ensuring that I, do my best to maintain my grades because during my application process, I submitted my transcripts ranging from back when I started high school up until my senior year. So I'd say making sure, I maintain my grades in some type of way. But another thing, as I mentioned, that compared to universities, let's say in Tanzania or like other African universities or in European countries, they really do focus on what exactly are you doing outside of class. So I'd say engaging in different extracurricular activities. So for example, on my side, I'd say, if I were to give someone advice on what activities to engage in, I'd say do something that you're passionate about and not only activities that you say, oh, this would look good on, let's say, my activity list. So following your passion and making sure you put your time and effort into that. So for example, for me, I was part of Model United Nations, debating. I also started an initiative whereby it's called Teens Meet, which focused on, it was an empowerment workshop for youth in my community and environmental initiatives. So let's say climate action programs in my community. So I'd say building on my passion projects, which were things that I liked doing. So not only just for the sake of university, so building on my activity list. And you can really do anything. Let's say you could take on leadership positions in your school, learn an instrument. So if you're a music lover, doing that or engaging creative arts. So there's really is a lot you can do. And lastly, I'd say another thing is developing good relationships with my teachers, because at the end of the day, those were the people who would write recommendation letters for me. So making sure I built that connection and, built a relationship with my teachers so that if I reached out to them at the end for my college application, then they'd be like, okay, I know Doreen and I can do this. I can write this about her. So yeah, I'd say the relationship with my teachers over.
All right, thank you so much, Doreen. I think at the end you might have cut out a little bit, but I think we did get the very gist of that. I'd like to open it up to any of our other panelists if they have something else that they would like to say or add on to this question. And if not, I would be more than happy to close it out.
Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
Another thing that also helped me was realizing that they do look at like our before high school grades, so like middle school, like or pre-high school grades, they look at that, especially like your 7th to 8th grade years, they look at those grades. So I would say like a lot of people think that like middle school doesn't matter, but it does matter because they ask those type of questions about, can I see your transcript from middle school? What are your grades? Like, so also making sure that I'm ahead of my grades before, also a really big thing that helped me for success for college. So that I knew that like I didn't have to worry about my GPA or this and that because I was still put in the work in middle school and in high school to make sure that when college looked at my transcripts, they were like, okay, she's like, she has it. But also, just in general, just make sure that you're on top of your grades because that's a really big step that can help you in success in high school. I mean, in college.
No, yeah, I'd like to echo all of what was said before. If you guys are also thinking of what law school might look like or what med school might look like, I would say once again, there really is no path, especially for law school. I could talk more about that. There really is no path. I know a lot of people who go into STEM, who go into business, I know someone who went into theater and they ended up going to Harvard Law School. And it really is just making sure that you have the grades and making sure that you have the work ethic to be in those positions. I'll talk more about the application process for law school a little later if people have questions on that. But I know for now, a lot of this is focused on college, so I will try to stick with that. And with all of that being said, moving on to our next question, how did you go about choosing which schools to apply to? And for that, I'll start off with Nyla.
Yeah, so when I was choosing what schools I wanted to apply to, it was really a holistic approach for me. What I did is I really tried to envision what I wanted my college experience to look like, and that included academics, extracurriculars, and academics, extracurriculars, and all the things that college has to offer you. Because if you think about it, college will be the next 4 years of your life, and it's going to be this new environment that you're living in. So for me, I looked at majors. I am a neuroscience major, or I plan on majoring in neuroscience this coming fall, and I wanted to go to a school that had a strong STEM support system, so that when I got there, my resources and my needs would be met in a manner that could like set me up for success to apply to grad schools later. And I looked at extracurricular programs, or just the environment of the school in general, because I knew that it wasn't just school. Like in high school, you go to school and you come back home, but with college, you're kind of just living in your school for 4 years. So making sure that the population of the students were diverse, making sure that I could find professors that I could resonate with their research, and finding a lot of specifics to me so that I could not just be a happy student, but also a happy person there for 4 years. And also, a huge thing that I did was, if you guys have the opportunity, go online and look at the schools and look at the campuses and try and see if you can really picture yourself there, because that was a huge thing for me. I didn't want to apply to schools on the West Coast because I couldn't picture myself going to the West Coast. So that really helped narrow down the schools for me, because there are those US rankings of which schools are the best, but you really have to focus on what school is the best for you, because you're going to be the one going there. If it's the best school for like another person, it might not be the best school for you. And so I really try to like figure out what my most important needs were and what the things that were like non-negotiable for me were, and I made sure to apply to the schools that would give me that in the best way possible. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And then moving on to Doreen.
So in terms of how did I choose my choice of schools to apply to? So to begin first, for my last 2 years of high school, I went to a UWC school, standing for United World College. And around the world, there's 17 of these schools. And one thing about going to a United World College, like whichever you go to, is that there's partner universities, so US universities that are partners with the UWC schools. And a thing that you get from being a UWC student is that through those partner universities, if you end up getting admission to one of the universities, is that you'd get a 40,000 grant to the total tuition that's required to your universities. So having those partner universities, I'd say, already narrowed down the schools that I would apply to, because if you look at the number of schools that are available in the US, there's over like, I believe 4,000. So that was quite a lot. So I guess, so starting from there, it narrowed down my list in a way. But even within those 100 schools that I was, able to apply to, due to it being partner universities with UWC schools, I still looked at, I made sure that my list of schools was balanced. So not only having rich schools, so schools that had very low acceptance rates, but also having schools that were more of like likelies. So schools that, the acceptance rates were more manageable within my range to be accepted into. So making sure that it was very balanced and not only applying to very, very selective schools, because the admission process sometimes can be unpredictable. But even within those schools, that make sure, of course, academics were okay. And even as Nyla said, looking at what would the colleges offer me in terms of campus life, the student associations that are available, are the students engaged? And for me, on my side, I'm really passionate about climate action. So I was looking at the student governments in the school. What are they doing? What action are they taking? So things like that. And I'd say another thing that really helped, so I couldn't really attend the schools in person because it was quite far to travel all the way to the US to, visit the schools in person. But I would attend online events. So the online meetings really helped. I spoke to caring students to know what is life like at the colleges that, I put on my list. And lastly, I'd say also reaching out to the admission officers at the school. So sending emails with whichever questions I had really helped me, answer the questions that I had and helped me decide if the schools were the places that I wanted to be at. So yeah, over.
Thank you so much for that. I'll open this up to our other panelists. I do want to try to be as respectful as time as possible and get through all our questions. But if our other panelists want to add on, please feel free. All right, and awesome. I echo the sentiments about what both of them said in terms of applying to law school as well. I think that process can be very similar. It's really important that you make choices that align with your grades, that align with what you see yourself doing in the future, and that you apply to a range of schools. I remember for me, I wanted to apply to obviously Harvard, Yale, Stanford, but then also I tried to have safeties as well as target schools, which I thought I would be able to get into. So that way, after the end of the cycle, I would still be good. Something you'll hear often is that, especially for selective schools, even you can have everything right and still end up getting not accepted. So it's really important that you have that cushion for yourself. So that way, going into it, you know, at the bare minimum, you will be getting admitted to a school. All right, moving on to the next question. Can you talk about what the personal statement is? What does this add to your application and how you went about writing that? And to get started, we'll go with Miriam.
All right, so the personal statement is one essay that every single college that you apply to receive. It's different than any essay that you write before in the sense that normally when I thought of essays prior to writing my personal statement, I would think of a 4 to 8 page long written out sort of paper, but a personal statement is only 1 page. It's about 650 words maximum, I believe. So it's nothing too extensive, nothing too difficult to write, and the tone of it isn't to say too academic. It's as if you yourself is writing it. It's as if your own voice is writing the paper, and that way it's more personal to you. One thing that I would advise is that your personal essay is really unique. If you can get your paper and write someone else's name instead of your name on it, then maybe it's too broad, and that way that when the officers who are looking through your paper, they see something that stands out. They see something that is unique, that stands out, because they're reading about hundreds and thousands of these papers over their lifetime. So if they see something that's different, then that's going to take their attention, and that's going to make them more inclined to be more interested in you and to admitting you into their university. And about mine specifically, I didn't have a lot to go by when I was writing mine. I was kind of lost. So what I would do is I would look at other people's from past cycles and see essays that did work and ones that stood out to me. And I thought, like, I put myself in the position of the people who would be reading my essay, and as I was reading those ones, I would see what stood out to me. What did I find interesting? Would I want to admit that person? And then I'll try to take that and apply it to my own. So some essays that stood out to me were one about Costco, one about random things. And they would be able to take these random ideas like bees and Costco and things that make no sense and be able to tie it back to themselves and thought something deeper. So that's what I did. I took something pretty broad, that doesn't make much sense. The main sentence, the topic sentence, which is really important to make sure that it stands out. My topic sentence was, I have been mispronouncing my name my entire life. I did that so that whoever would read it would be like, what does that even mean? So that they feel inclined to read more and learn more about me. So I took that broad statement and I was able to tie it back to my personality, how I grew up in a predominantly white environment, and how it affects me, and how I want to apply that to my college experience. It's very important that after you talk about yourself, that you get more broad and talk about how you are going to apply what you just spoke about to yourself in college, so that the admission people can see what their future student would be like, what that person has to offer to their university. So I talked about myself and how I've been mispronouncing my name, which is sort of a stretch, but and how that mispronunciation in the last 2 letters reflect how white people at my school, which I would go to a majority white school, have been mispronouncing my name, and how I have been changing myself in order to appease the people who I am around. So that sort of broad statement sort of went deeper, and I recommend doing that, but not like haphazardly. Don't just like talk about something random if you can't really apply it. Talk about something personal to yourself that can't be copied and pasted to anyone else, and something that really makes you you and makes you different, because the number one thing you want to do is stand out and be different, so that they see something different from all of these essays that they have been reading. So that's my advice.
Thank you so much. Also, for those of you who don't know, haphazardly means like just don't go about it randomly. Don't just go about it willy-nilly. Try to really hone in and figure out one thing. And then moving on to Jayla.
So yeah, well, just bouncing off what Miriam said, a personal statement is something that every college does ask for. Well, no, actually, not every college. Some colleges don't really need it, but it's still good to have that essay and send it in just so they can get to know you better, because that is a way for college to see who you are as a person and get to know you through that 650 word essay. For me, I didn't really know really how to write my essay, same way as Miriam. I was sitting here in my room like, what do I want to write about? Because at that point, I really didn't know my major either. because I was psychology and musical theater, so I didn't know, should I write it about theater? Should I write it about my mental health? Like, but then I sat down, I was like, you know what? If I really wanted, I was like, I really want to like make a career in psychology, like as a therapist. So I sat down, I was like, okay, psychology is gonna be my major. So that's what I based my essay on. I based it on my struggles with mental health from middle school to up to now. And yeah, that's kind of like a really basic type of essay, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people do that. But it's how you write it and how you make it your own, how you tell your story through that essay that can make it totally different from everyone else. And that's how you make your colleges see you. So I wrote it from, I wrote it in like a type of a story type of way from like how my middle school self would see myself to how I see myself now. And that's how I based my essay on. I didn't write it basically say, oh, I felt this way and now I want to do this and that. I based it how I felt through those years from middle school to now, and how I got myself through those hard times by myself, and how I like made myself get help in the way I needed it. So that's how I wrote my essay on. That's why I was like, this is how I'm going to get the colleges to know that I'm serious about my major. I'm serious about how I want to help people, why I want to do this as I grow up. And like just like get them to know me and how I like got myself to be a better person, and how I'm gonna be persistent in college and like not fall back. And if I fall back, I know how to get help again. So like I wrote it as like a way for like them to know me, but also know that I'm gonna be better as I continue to grow. And like I'm not gonna fall back into that position. And if I do, I know how I'm gonna step up and get myself help. So I made them know me from then and know me now. That's how I wrote my essay. And that's how I got the colleges to really see me for who I was.
Thank you so much for that. I'm now opening it up to our other panelists if there's anything that they want to add. If not, that's also perfectly fine.
When it comes to the college essay, I do want to say start thinking about it really early. It is, I want to say, it's kind of difficult because of how many essays that they are reading. And when it comes time to it, you may feel a little bit lost as, you know, for example, if you go on interviews and then you get the tell me about yourself question, your mind kind of goes blank, you know? So I want to say, think about it early, think about your story early. My personal experience writing the college essay was that I actually wrote about writing the college essay. I wrote about how how difficult it was because I felt like I was supposed to cater a trauma story in order to like appeal, like get their sympathy so I can get acceptance into their college was how I kind of base it off of. And I was like, my essay was sort of a rant about just the system and how I felt like my existence as a Black woman was based on oppression and based on the difficulties and about how I persevered through this and stuff. So I want to say think outside the box. And also one of the biggest like tip that I got from teachers, and I also was got from college professors because I did go and ask for help, is for one, don't focus on the story too much, on your story too much. You want to focus on what that story, like what's your story, the outcome of it. So what did that thing that you went through, how did that make you who you are today? Because if the college is reading like 400 words of like what you went through, and then maybe like the small section of your essay is just about like, oh yeah, and this, because of all this, I'm this way now. No, you want to focus on who you are today. What did that experience make you who you are? And so yeah, just don't focus too much on the story because again, colleges, they want to hear about what what did that do to you? What was the outcome of it? So yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much. And I think as you've heard from a lot of our panelists already, it's really important, one, to, of course, have a story and to have a narrative. It's also very important to make sure you have an end goal of what you want to see, what you want to do. I really just want to echo all of those sentiments, and especially want to echo Jayla's sentiments, what she talked about in going through her process, where it can be really hard to figure out what you want to start on, where you want to go. Something that I did for law school, which I found a lot of success with, and I think really touches on all three of our panelists, is to make sure you have a past, a present, and a future. You want to have some past experience that you talk about. You want to say how you got here. You want to talk about the present. You want to talk about what you're doing now. things that you've been working on. And then finally, you want to make sure you end off in a future note. You want to make sure you end off in a positive. You want to make sure you end off talking about where you see yourself going at this school. And that will really help set as a basis of what you want to do and to communicate that as well to these admissions counselors. I think it can be really hard to talk about yourself and to, I think, sometimes brag about yourself or open up a lot of things about yourself. And you will know best what kind of aspects you want to pull on. Some people do want to lean more towards the things that they've gone through and end on a positive note. Other people want to talk more about critiquing the system. And I think all of those are very valid. And I think all of those are very successful, as you guys have seen. All right, and then moving on to the next question, once again, trying to be as quick, not as quick as possible, but also make sure we get through all of our questions. Can you talk about what the SAT/ACT is and how you went about preparing for that exam? And we'll start that off with Nyla.
Yes. So before we get into how I got into preparing for the SAT and the ACT and SAT, we really need, like, it's a huge thing for me. A huge thing for me was understanding what the test was. So they're both standardized tests and they're both aptitude tests, which a standardized test just means that they're graded and administered in a consistent/standard way. And an aptitude test also just means that it's supposed to be a measure of how well you're going to do something, your natural ability to do something. So with these two tests, they're supposed to be an indicator for how well you're going to do in college, which isn't exactly always the most accurate, but that's how colleges interpret them. So for me, how I prepared for them was I took a practice test, and after I got my score back, I really broke down every single question in each section. So I took the SAT and the ACT, and I just liked the ACT better. So that's what I studied. But the thing about the two tests is the skills are transferable. So if you're really studying the writing section and the reading section for the SAT, you could also administer those skills to the other test as well. So for me, what really increased my score was going through the questions I got wrong and really finding what that question was testing. You don't want to just keep on doing the same question and then circling the right answer when you get it wrong. You really want to understand the skill so that you can ensure you never get that type of question wrong again. So for example, the writing section is broken down into a lot of things like concision, punctuation, the use of so many grammatical like rules in English. And so for that, for every question that I got wrong, I would study that skill set in which I got wrong. And once I studied that and put time into like perfecting my skill, I wouldn't ever get those questions wrong again, and I could actually see an increase in my score. And for me, I had a routine the summer before I was taking the test, so that I could be in a consistent routine so I could study for it. And so that when I come to take the test, I feel like I have a sufficient, you know, practice time that I had behind me so that I could feel confident when I was taking the test. And also knowing your your weaknesses and your strengths as well is also very important so that you can really allocate your time in an efficient way. And for me, I liked studying English one day and then math one day and then science or whatever it was, different days. And then at the end of the week, I take another practice test and kind of go based off that. And if you set aside a period of time, like 8 weeks, 12 weeks, at the end of that period, you will see an increase in your score if you're just remaining consistent and if you're really focusing on what you got wrong. And remembering again that it is a standardized test. And yeah.
Thank you so much. And moving on to EJ.
So I want to use my own experience as an example of what not to do when it comes to the SAT and ACT test. I will say, number one thing before taking a test, look at the schools that you are interested in applying to and look if it's test optional or if it's a requirement. One thing I will say that just because it is test optional, don't take that as, oh, I'm not going to bother with taking it. Because taking the SAT and taking the ACT is a bonus thing. And you want to be able to have like to show them a really good test score. So it just adds on to the more reason as to why they should admit you. Because again, just like Nyla said, is that colleges use it to measure whether you're ready to handle the college classes that they have to offer. Again, as much as you may not see it being accurate, it's just what the college measure it to be. So again, I want to say that really research onto what you are interested in applying to and looking into that and to not see that test optional over there and then take it as, again, I don't feel like I should bother with doing that. Because I will say that I personally did that. And again, I'm using my own experience as to what you should not do. One thing that I also would say is if there's a community college in your area, I will say that I am from Montgomery County, so we have a community college here. They offer courses and they offer classes. Reach out to your community colleges, look at the courses, look at the classes. Online as well. I know a lot of universities like Princeton University offer these courses, offer these classes for you to take and for you to learn and get a tutor and be able to, get help with it. It is pricey, I will say, but what isn't? It's just think about it as an investment to your future. And that's the big thing about what college is as well. You're investing into your own future. So really look at it as that. I also will say, go on Amazon, search up the books. It is changing. The SAT and ACT is changing. I think this year for the class of 2025, it will be electronic. I'm not quite sure, but definitely go on College Board, look at what they have on there because they will tell you all the information will be on there. And go back on Amazon to go look at books like 2024, SAT, ACT prep. That's what I did. And again, take it seriously. Take it seriously as much as you can. It is very much of a bonus thing. And also you don't want to be in a position where maybe a bunch of these schools are test optional, but then one of the schools that you really want to apply requires a test. So then you're kind of like stuck, And yeah, don't stress as well about it. Prep early as you can. Do what Nyla did, having a routine set down for you, and also guidance and ask for help with a lot of things. Go to your math teacher if you need help on something real quick. Go to your English teacher to help you with this type of stuff. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to open it up again to any of our panelists if they want to add anything.
I would just like to add two little quick points to add on to her points. One, when you are looking at the schools and seeing if they're test optional or not, look at the range in which the previous years, the students that were admitted in the previous years, their SAT and SAT scores, because that's like a nice indicator into like whether your score is like up to par with where it should be. Not that a school will write you off if it isn't, but the reality is that like if you do choose to submit your score, you want it to be within a good range of what the previous students exhibited. And then another point is there's a lot of free resources for prepping online. So if you don't have the money or the resources to buy a book or invest in a tutor, you could always look online and ask your school because they most likely do have a lot of free resources. And there's also a bunch of good videos on YouTube that you could also use to prepare, which is what I used. So yeah, if money's an issue, you do have those resources at your fingertips.
Thank you so much. And Miriam, I think you had a point, or?
Yeah, one thing that I didn't know existed until after I applied to all the schools, and Nyla actually taught me this, is that you can super score your SAT exam. So SAT is split into English, reading, English, and as one, and math as another. So if you take it one time and you get a really good math score and your English score is really bad, if you take it again, you can study really hard for just the English portion and then get a really good English score and not focus as much on the math section. Don't just like leave it blank or anything because the colleges do see them both at the end. And what you can do is you can get the best score of those two exams. You can say you can get your really good math score and your really good English score from the two separate exams, combine them, and that will be your like super scored SAT exam. And that is something that I really wish I knew before I took the exam. But then again, don't just like leave one part blank or don't try on the second part that you're not focusing on because colleges can see both full scores at the end, but super score is a really good opportunity for anyone to take.
Echoing everything that was said, if you are thinking of applying to med school or law school once you're in undergrad, you will have to take another standardized test. I took the LSAT. I did the same thing that Nyla did 2 summers ago. It really is about making sure you have a schedule and you stick to your schedule. I think that is when you will see the most growth, when you say you're going to study every single day, not for the entire day, but for maybe 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, and then you have a break day. That's what I did, and that's where I found the most success. I would do it incrementally as well. So I would do sections throughout the week, and then you would want to take a full practice exam that is like very similar to how you're going to take it the day of. So that way you know this is what your range is expecting and you don't have any surprises once you take your actual final exam. And yeah, I would also say it's okay to give yourself breaks as well. If you are studying really hard, I remembered always feeling like I needed to do more and to always study more, and I wasn't studying enough. But you will see that like your brain needs rest, your brain needs time to actually take the information and to learn it as well. So it's obviously really great that you study for these exams. So it's just as important that you are not doing it to the point where you feel that like you can't do anything else. This should be a marathon, not a sprint, as many people often say. You should set up the skills that you have. So come 2 weeks or probably come 2 months after you're studying, you know what you need to do. And with that all being said, I'm going to move on to our next question and going first. Oh, oh yeah, sorry.
One thing real quick, sorry. One thing that for me, I have really bad anxiety when it comes to tests. But the one thing that helped me get over my anxiety was like not putting my whole focus on that the SAT scores are going to get me into college. Like if I have like you can get like a really bad score and you can still get into the college you want. Cause like it's just them seeing like how you work as a level class. But they still have classes where you can still be in that can help you get to that level in college. Just think that if you get a bad score, you're not getting into your college. Like that's not true. It's just them seeing how you work in that type of level. And also tests, they make you really anxious. So you can like be really anxious and mess up, but that doesn't determine whether you get into college or not. That's why I made a test, like a lot of schools made it test optional because they don't want to base your whole thing on one test. But still take it seriously because it really is a really boost in the college application process, as they said.
That was actually an amazing point. Thank you for saying that, Jayla. And I also want to emphasize that as well for law school. I think people think that if you don't have a perfect LSAT score, you're not going to get into a top law school. But I know people who did get perfect LSAT scores and didn't get into top law schools. So as much as these scores matter and as much as it's an important thing you should focus on, do not neglect or do not ignore the other parts of your application as that relates to your personal statement, your letters of recommendation, and all your activities as well. Those are just as, if not, I would say more important when you total them than just your SAT versus ACT. And then moving on to our next question and going first, we'll have Doreen talk about how did you decide what did you want to major in college?
Okay, so I'd say deciding what I wanted to major in college was quite a journey that I had to go through because for so long I had to think of, so what do I want to do in the future? You know, that question would always be in my mind whenever I meet someone. So what do you want to be in the future? You know, that question would always be in my mind. And I'd say one thing that really helped was seeing, so what am I passionate about? So like, what have I been involving myself in the last past years? And one thing that I did notice is I've been really involved in terms of like environmentally related issues. So I do like climate action programs in my community, whether it be climate education programs for like the youth in my community or like beach cleanups, you know, those sort of initiatives. And also one thing is that through those initiatives, I was able to network with people in the field of the environmental science field. And I got to know what are they doing, like what exactly could you do with an environmental studies major, which is something that I plan on majoring in college. So from learning from them and seeing that at the end of the day, they were successful in what they're majoring in, and I'd say that really did inspire me to choose to major environmental studies. And also I do want to do economics as alongside environmental studies. And that stemmed from doing economics in my high school, during high school. And I'd say I'd want it as an addition to environmental studies. But another thing I'd say is really was stemmed from networking with other people in the field and seeing what is involved in the environmental studies field. And lastly, I remember doing this was going on different colleges and seeing the majors list, and I look at the courses that are like in different majors. So I think I remember spending time like looking at literally every major, you know, trying to see like maybe this is something I'd like to do in college. So one, networking, following my passion, and also like browsing through the courses list on the environment. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And then on to Nyla.
So for me, when I was choosing my major, I kind of thought of what I've been good at the past 4 years in high school. Because when you are in high school, you have a broad range of like classes that you're taking: history, science, English. And I kind of thought of what I enjoyed the most and what I was good at, and also what I wanted to do in the future. So I know for me, I've always just loved learning and being a student. So I wanted to pick a career that would kind of allow me to do that. So something that I landed on was kind of research, scientific research, and also maybe pursuing medicine. And so with that, I also look back at my high school experiences, and I really enjoyed my science classes and the time that I spent in labs, and just in that like science setting. So for me, I ended up realizing that I wanted to do something science related, but then I was like, okay, I want to pick my niche, because it's always just good to like know as much as you can. It's okay if you don't, but if you are able to get there as like closely, figure out what it is you want to study. And for me, I really love interacting with humans, and the intersection of those two, my passion for science and my passion for humans, I landed on neuroscience because it is the study of the brain, and the brain is involved in so many human, like, to your brain, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of involved in every single thing that we've done, and it also explains a lot of things in history, because it's like the choices people made have a huge your brain has a huge role in that. And so I landed on neuroscience because I felt like it'd give me a specialization that I could really pursue with a lot of passion, and also a broad range of career choices that I could also pursue in the future. So yeah, just looking at what you're good at and what you've been good at, and what you're passionate about, and how that could like help you get a land at a career that you're passionate about and good in the future.
Amazing. And I'd like to open it up now to the rest of our panelists if they have anything else they'd like to add. Awesome. I would really just echo what both of Doreen and Nyla said, especially Nyla in terms of do what you're good at, I would say. I think for me in high school, I struggled a lot with the maths and the sciences. Like obviously they weren't terrible, but they were not classes that I enjoyed. I didn't really get that much joy or like things that like excited me when I was doing them. So almost the opposite of Nyla. I knew that like reading, writing, researching, that was the kind of things that I was good at, and there are careers in that field. So I think it's really important that you obviously do something that you could see a successful career in, but you also do something that you would somewhat, at least at a minimum level, I think enjoy is really important and that you would be good at. And I think a really big reason for this is because college is harder than high school. The classes you take will be more like difficult than the ones you took in high school. So if you were struggling in classes in high school, do note that like those would be ones that you had to build up once you get to college. And for me, I knew that the maths probably wouldn't be my journey, but that's why I ended up going into political science and government and politics, because those were things that I had a lot of background in and things that I did well in high school. And yeah, all right, awesome. And moving on to our next question. This one is specifically for Doreen. Can you talk about the process of applying to US colleges as an international student? Specifically, what are some things that everyone in this meeting should know about navigating the process? And is there any advice that you wish that you had from day one when you started applying to schools as an international student?
All right, so I have a couple of pointers, just things that I wish I knew from day one as an international student applying to US colleges, and one of them being starting early in literally anything involving in the process. So one, of course, doing your research with universities. And for example, in the US, there's over like 4,000 universities. So there's quite a big range to choose from. So it's really good to see starting your research early. So if early on, I want to apply to a college in America, so just seeing what universities are available for you and using online, whether it be online websites or going on the college websites and seeing if they have your major, if they have the programs that you'd like to do. So having some sort of criteria. So like, what exactly would you want out of your college experience, and seeing if the colleges that you find do match up with what you'd expect your college experience to be like. So starting early with research. Another thing I'd say is making sure you stick to the deadlines, because the deadlines are firm. So if you miss, let's say, your application deadline, there won't really like be any room for you to be like, oh, I can submit my application late. So just making sure you stay find a way to keep track of the deadlines, and also depending on whether you're applying early or not. So just having those deadlines on track. And I'd say something about being an international student is that there's so much terminologies in terms of the surrounding in the application process. So for example, early decision, early action, regular decision, need lines, need aware. So there's like so much terminology surrounding the application process. So it's really important to be aware of these. And for example, in Tanzania, there's not much, for example, if you go to national curriculum schools, there's not really much support or guidance that's offered to understand what the process really looks like and even help with what these terminologies mean. So even taking the initiative to do your online search, because the information is really available online. If you do your research online, you can get, an idea of this. But another addition I'd say is also in terms of the standardized tests, for example, the SATs, ACTs. Most of us actually come to learn about these, let's say in your last year of high school, when you're starting to look at the colleges you want to apply to, and you start looking at the requirements and you're like, oh, they need an SAT score. And for many people, they don't really know what's an SAT score. So I'd say if you're listening to this and you're currently, let's say, you just started high school or in your middle school, just starting to familiarize yourself with what's an SAT score, all these standardized tests, and starting the preparation early, step by step, not too much, but like eventually once you reach the stage of applying to college, it would really be helpful because you'd already know what they look like and what to expect when you finally take the test. And also financial aid is another thing as an international student. So understanding what does it look like, what does your college offer, and what your family can manage to support you with. So understanding the financial aid process really much, because it's different for international students. So I know for US students, they use the FAFSA, I believe, but then for international students, there's something called the CSS profile. So looking at that, what documents do they need? Do you need to submit in order to, complete your financial aid application? So all these are, things to keep in mind. And lastly, I'd say being open-minded, because one thing that people have usually is there is like quite a big range of great universities in America. So having a diverse list is very important, and making sure you diversify your list is really good. So I hope these are some things that I wish I'd known, before from day one, and I hope they're quite helpful.
All right, amazing. Thank you for that question and answer, especially as an international student. I know a lot of people here are tuning in from outside of the US, and it is really important that we talk about the resources and the differences in the application process if you are applying from outside. And now moving on to letters of recommendation and the role that they play in the application process. I will actually start in talking about this just because, one, it's very similar from undergrad and law school, and two, these are just a few things that I wish I had known when I started the process. So essentially, for most schools that you apply to, I'm pretty sure every single one, they will ask for 2 letters of recommendation. It is really important that the people who are writing these letters of recommendation are someone that you trust, are someone that has seen you do good work in school, and is someone that will be able to talk to you in a positive light without you knowing is the biggest part. Oftentimes, you'll get the option, whether you can choose to see what they say about you or whether you deny being able to choose what they say about you. I would 100% recommend that you choose to deny seeing what they say about you. I know that can feel a little hard to just trust someone to write about you, but if you want it to look the best, if thinking about it from the perspective of an admissions counselor, if they knew that you read what the person wrote about you, they wouldn't take it with that much grain of salt, versus if they knew for a fact that you had no idea what this person was saying about you, at least in that essay specifically. You would obviously fully know it would be a strong letter of recommendation because of your interactions with this professor or this teacher. However, it is still really important that when you ask them, that you recognize that you will deny any type of seeing of what's actually being said about you. Something else, though, that I think is really important is that you don't just have to ask and then give it to them to do anything that you want. You can literally ask if they can write your letter of recommendation. If they say no, then you will go on to someone else. But if they say yes, you can also send them a bullet point reminders of things that you've done in class. You could give them tips saying, I would like for you to talk about what it's like to have me as a student. I would like to remember this day that I did this thing in class, and make sure to include that in my essay that you write about me. I think the biggest thing about the letters of recommendation is that these are supposed to be what other people think of you when you're not in the room, or like when you're not necessarily there to check what they're saying. And that will be able to be communicated the best if you just give them a little bit of guidance and helping shape that. By no means am I saying that you should be writing it for them, but you don't have to also do it the other opposite way of just giving them free rein. And something else that I think is really important is to make sure that you're confident that they can write you a strong letter of recommendation. don't just simply ask, can you write me a letter of rec, but instead ask, would you be willing to write me a strong letter of recommendation? Then you'll be able to know for a fact that they're talking nothing but positive things about you as a student, you as a worker, or just you and your capacity and to be in undergrad at this new place. So those are just the few tips that I have as it relates to writing a strong letter of recommendation, and then passing it back to Doreen to talk a little bit about what that's like from the international student perspective as well.
Okay, so I would definitely echo what Raja said about having some pointers in, let's say, if you ask someone to write your recommendation letter, having some pointers about yourself, so that they know, maybe you've done some key things that you're like, I would love this to be my recommendation letter. So just, adding that to whoever is writing your recommendation letter, I'd say that's really helpful. So for example, for us, I remember for our teacher recommendation letters specifically, we had something called a brag sheet. So on there, for example, if something you've done in class that's really, you believe stood out and you believe that the teacher should like put it in, you could do that. So having some sort of like pointers really does help. But in addition, I'd say there is a section where you can submit additional letters of recommendation, and here you can really have a variety. So it's not only teachers. For example, if you volunteered at an organization, you can have someone at that organization write your recommendation letter. If you've done an internship, for example, so having a variety of letters, or maybe it can be a principal. So having different people, if you have a section for an additional letter, it's really good to have something additional and a recommendation about you from multiple perspectives, because I believe different people would have different views on you, and they could highlight things about you that really would stand out to the officers. And I'd say another thing is, in addition to a recommendation letter, for some university colleges would ask for a resume. So if you can submit that as well, to just highlight more things that would not be in your activity list, would be helpful as well. Yeah, over.
Amazing. I'm now going to open it up to the rest of our panelists if they have anything else they'd like to add for letters of recommendation. All right, great. And now moving on to our next question. What is a mistake that you or a friend that you know that you would recommend others avoid in their application process? And I'll start this off with Jayla.
One mistake that I made was I kept pushing off the little personal little questions that they ask during the application process. So each college, they have little questions that you have to answer. And like they could be like really dumb questions, but you still have to answer them. And I would always push them off because I'm like, there'd be like 500 words max. And I don't want to write 500 words. I already wrote a 650-word essay about myself. Why would I want to write more words? So I always push them off. And then that was like the main part of the essay that I had to complete. Because everything else was like already like quick, easy, you put it in, you're done. But like the personal questions always took the longest time for me because I was always pushing them off because I was always procrastinating. Like, I don't want to do that. But then I was like, wait, if I keep pushing them off, I'm gonna end up not finishing in time for like my early action deadline, which was November 1st. So that was my mistake. I always procrastinate, and then I end up realizing that I didn't finish them. And then when I was to like submit my application, I had to go back and finish them, which add more work and more time into my process, because I'm like, I should have just done it when I was doing my application in the first place instead of waiting and procrastinating. So mine was procrastinating my applications and like finishing right when I was doing it. And that was like the biggest mistake I could have made, because then I'd have to rush to submit them before my deadline.
Yeah, a lot of things can definitely sneak up on you, so I definitely understand that. And then moving on to Doreen, if there's any mistakes that you or other international students that you might have known of made during this cycle that you'd like to let everyone else know about.
Okay, so I would agree with Jayla in terms of, the tiny essays that you have to write. So like actually starting early and not really like procrastinating them and leaving them to the last minute. Because I do remember for one of like the colleges that I was applying to, I think the deadline was like around 2 days before the deadline. That's when I actually started the essay. It turned out great, but then I'd say if I had more time to actually put in the work and the effort into the essay, it would have been much better. But I'd say like, not leaving it to like the last minute, because they can be a lot. For some colleges, they can ask up to 5 questions and they're quite short, like 50 words, 100, 250. So, starting early with that. But another thing I'd say, applying to colleges that you actually want to go to, because of course, if you diversify your list, maybe you have some safeties. So if you have safeties just for the sake of putting them there and not really wanting to apply, not really wanting to attend to those schools, but you just apply to them, at the end, if that remains the choice that you have, you might be a little bit disappointed, because So I'd say like, actually choosing the places you want to go to. And another thing is, especially as an international student, is during the financial aid process, usually on Common App, which is the platform that you use to apply to the universities, they do ask a question: are you planning to apply for financial aid? Yes or no? And for many universities, they list that if you say no, then it's hard for you to apply for financial aid later on. So like keeping track of like the process of applying for financial aid, because if you would know, then it might be a bit tricky for you to apply for financial aid later on. And lastly, I'd say again on the term of like deadlines, for some colleges, they have like interviews that you can do, just as an addition to your application. So it's quite advisable to do interviews if that's something that you'd like, but also knowing the deadlines for those interviews so you don't really miss out on them. So yeah.
Right, thank you so much. I'd like to open it up to anyone else to speak. Also, I see, Gail, you have your hand up, so if you would like to go again, also please feel free.
Something that Doreen reminded me of when she said financial aid was that even though schools, they offer scholarships, even if a school offers scholarships, do not think you don't need to apply for any other outside scholarships. That's a mistake that I made, was thinking, oh, they gave me money, I don't need to apply for anything else. But yes, you do. You can always get more money because the school debt, the school loans and stuff, like the money that need to pay can hit you like a tow truck, and you'd be like, I didn't know I had to pay that much money. So making the mistake of not applying to more scholarships is horrible. Like even now I'm over here like rushing to apply for scholarships because I didn't apply for enough and I'm paying the price now. So I'm just make sure you apply to a scholarship. Even if you get a lot of money from your school, especially for out of state people, apply for scholarships outside of your school because you will need that money.
All right, and I'll open this up to anyone else if they have any mistakes that either you or a friend made that you would like to let everyone know. Awesome, and that is a great conversation to segue into our next question. This one will be for actually everyone here. And can you just talk a little bit more about how do scholarships work at your specific school, and what has the scholarship process look like for you guys? And feel free to go whatever order you guys want.
So my school in particular, they had a lot of opportunity. Like your schools, majority of schools will have partnerships with other organizations that actually want to give out scholarships. One thing that I was a part of, there's an organization called Dream It Be It that came to my school, and it was kind of so yeah, just pay attention to your school's announcements. I will say, because I did not know about the organization until last minute, and last minute I was registering, and then they were giving $750. And although it's like, okay, that's a little money, you're looking for like the bigger scholarships, still apply to the scholarships that are giving out like $300, $700, $800, what you would consider little, because the little money adds up. So like what Jayla said, apply to outside scholarships. But yeah, specifically for my school, they had a lot of organizations collaborating with them. And what I did was I would just ask my schools about them, go to your counseling office. My counselor specifically, she had a stack of organizations that gave them like flyers and like told all the instructions that you would need to. And you can pick the ones that, cater to what you're trying to do. And like companies like Dunkin' Donuts, it was companies like Burger King that were giving scholarships, that were just giving these papers over to your counselors. So again, go to your counselors, ask them about scholarships, because I want to say like 90% of the time they will have a lot. It's just that students need to go and ask for them. Like definitely go and ask for them. Don't wait for somebody to come and say, hey, are you interested in applying to this? You be the first one to, go to that office, sit down, ask them about it. And also my school was great at having a whole spreadsheet with a link to an organization, how much money they were giving, the deadline date, and who it caters for, because some scholarships are specific. Like some of them will only give it to people who are majoring in specific different categories. So you also want to look out for that. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I also just wanted to echo that right now. I think it can feel really hard when you're doing all this work to apply for scholarships if it's only like $1,000 or $2,000. However, they do add up. Just two tips that I recommend and things that I've heard from my friends that have done really well. you should have like your personal statement. Once you're done with your personal statement when you're applying to colleges, you should kind of try to change that around a little bit to have a statement for scholarships. A lot of them ask for 300 word, 500 word statement about X, Y, and Z. And it can be really easy to just transfer your personal statement to your scholarship one and then kind of keep a somewhat consistent one. I'm just going to plug a website that I found right now, just really easily looking up just like scholarships available. This one is for like African international students, since I know a lot of people joining today are from Africa, but also if you literally just look up your state, anything identifying about you, and then college scholarship, you will get a list of things that I would highly recommend you start applying for and doing that early. And all right, and I'll open it up to our other panelists as well.
One thing that I would add is that you're 100 times, maybe not 100, but you're a lot more likely to get actually receive the scholarships that are less money, that actually make you write essays than these really big like 5,000 or not 5,000, like $10,000 scholarships, no essay. Usually, if it says no essay scholarship with attached to a large amount of money, you're most likely not going to actually get accepted for that. And I didn't know that. I thought that, oh my gosh, it's too good to be true. So if it seems too good to be true, then it most likely is. And you're probably just going to be added to an email list and receive a bunch of emails about it. So I would say invest your time in actually writing good essays. Even if the money isn't as much as these no essay scholarships, you're most likely going to receive them because less people apply to scholarships that offer less money.
All right, thank you so much for that. And then our last two panelists.
Okay, so on my side, I would echo with what the others said, that applying to any other extra scholarships aside from, let's say, the scholarships that the school may offer, but also looking at the scholarships that the school may offer, because, for example, for some scholarships, they'd be like, let's say, scholar program or like tied scholarships. So, keeping an eye out for like any opportunity that you find available and, applying for them. And even another thing I'd add, maybe at the end of the day, after receiving your offer, your scholarship offer, trying to see if, it's something that your family can manage. And if not, 100 times it's really advisable as well to even reach out to the financial aid office at your school and seeing if they would be able to, some sort of way adjust your scholarship offer. Because, for example, for me and even my friends as well, for us who applied as international students, doing that really helped because they would adjust your offer saying maybe, okay, what we offered you, you can't really maybe be able to match it up and we can somehow add it up or adjust your offer. So not being scared to email the financial aid offices to offer more support in terms of the financial aid aspect.
Yeah, kind of adding on to what Doreen said, definitely reach out to your financial aid office. There is something called an appeal form, which majority of schools will have for you, where they're going to give you a scholarship and they're going to give you your financial aid offer, but you don't have to always accept that. If it's a school that you really, really want to go to, but it's just not enough, they didn't give you enough money, don't be afraid to ask. They're not going to withdraw your acceptance and be like, oh, yes, for money, you're asking for too much, I'm going to take this offer away from you. They're not going to do that. The appeal form can also be just you explaining your situation. Like, for example, if there's like a current like financial issue, like, you think that your parents' like expected financial income is going to be changing within the year that you're starting college, express that to them. Be very open about what's going on. And I'm sure also if you're an international student, I want to say that you can also express that being an international student, there's probably a lot of more fees and a lot of more money that you may need in order to cover like travels and overseas. So again, express that with the college saying, hey, this is my situation right now. I would love to go to I would love to attend your university, but the money is, I'm just asking for a little more money, just so I could be a little more affordable for me. So yeah, just reach out, and then again, go on Google or Safari, whatever it is, search up scholarships for this, scholarships for computer science majors, scholarship for whatever major you're majoring in. Go on Google and search them up. There are going to be tons there. Also, a lot of companies, like I mentioned Dunkin' Donuts, Burger King, they have scholarships as well. I'm pretty sure you can, if you're an international student, you can apply to them because they aren't like those, they're not like secluded as you have to be an American student, because as we know, those are chain brand, it's a chain restaurant. So definitely go on Google, search it up. Don't wait for somebody to come to you, and go ask your counselors again, because again, I'm going to emphasize again, a lot of organizations will connect with your schools and have like, I had a whole pile of scholarships just waiting for counselors, just waiting for students to come and ask them for it. So definitely do those things.
Thank you so much. And Nyla?
Yeah, so for me, I was very lucky because at my school we have a college and career counselor, and her main job is to help us with the college application process and scholarships. So I used her help mostly for scholarships. So she would post them onto our school website, and then we'd be able to go and access them there. And I think picking back off what everyone else said is you want to find very unique scholarships that have the most identifying qualities that resonate to you. So the more broad ones, there's going to be more people applying, but the more niche ones, there's going to be less people applying. So there's a bigger chance that you get one of them. And I think search engines for scholarships can be useful, but you have to realize that it's many, like millions and millions of students are applying to them probably. So the likelihood of you getting them are less than you finding those more personalized scholarships, and reaching out to your financial aid office, like they said, is a huge thing. Um, and then also looking for scholarships by region, whatever like sector that you're in. Like for me, I go to school in Montgomery County, so I would look at a lot of Montgomery County scholarships, and just looking at foundations that typically tend to give kids money for college is another big thing, and those are the scholarships that I was able to get. So doing your research, and a huge thing that I think a lot of students applying to college and scholarships are scared of is asking for help, because there's sort of this like atmosphere that forms that everyone thinks everyone else knows what they're doing, but you have to realize that this is everyone's first time applying to college, so you can't be scared to ask questions. That's something that I had to get over, and I would ask my friends for help. I'd ask people who've done this before for help, and when you do that, they can be like, oh wait, did you know about this scholarship? So asking people that you know have gone before you that have gotten scholarships, you can ask them for help, and just ask a lot of questions throughout the whole process, and don't be scared of that, because it'll be very beneficial, and it could really help you expedite your process. So yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So I would just like to open it up again to our panelists. If there's any other information that you guys would have about either your specific scholarship process or any advice that you'd like to give that you haven't touched on already. If not, I'd be more than happy to close us out, but I'd just like to give you guys all just one more chance to talk about that. All right, awesome. And no, yeah, the last thing that I would like to add is that is specifically for law school, but also even for undergrad, you can like compete with these schools. If you get into two schools and one of them gives you a lot more money than another one, you can literally send that to that other school. Obviously, you should make sure it's not just like you're sending a paragraph, but you should try to say a really good, I think, practice that I did when I was competing with law schools is that I would be like, I really want to go to your school, but this school gave me more money. Will you be able to match this? Yes or no? Here are three reasons why I like your school more. Here are three reasons why I want to go to your school. However, money is really important for me. What can you do? And I think that process literally helped me there was two schools. One of them gave me like $20,000 a year, and another one only gave me like 10,000. And I got a full ride at another law school. I showed them that, and they bumped that like $10,000 to literally a full ride as well. So I think that process of really saying that like, I have money from this other school. What can you do to try to either match this, or what can you do to try to get closer to this, is a really helpful technique that I think it can feel weird to do that because it feels like you're kind of like not grateful or that you're pushing back against these schools. But at the end of the day, they have a lot of money. So you should not feel shy, and you should not feel that is a problem. Like EJ said, to really go back and ask for money from these schools, because 100% would recommend that. And now we're moving on to our very last question that we have from the prepared section. Once we're done with this section, then you guys will all be able to ask any questions you have in the chat or by raising your hand. Before our last question of the panel, this is as well for everyone. Can you give one piece of advice that you wish you had specifically for you at the start of your college application process? And I'll let you guys, again, choose the order you want to answer that at.
I want to say ask for help. Like, ask for help. Again, I forgot who mentioned about that, but we're all new to this. Ask for help. I was asking my brothers, I was asking my teacher, I was asking my professor, I was asking my counselor, like I was asking everybody to like help me review for something, help me like read my college essay. What do they think about this? Or what is their opinion about this? Like I was asking possibly anybody that I could ask for their advice. And even when it came down to deciding where I wanted to go to as well, I also was asking for like opinions on it. Just because you want to ask people who's also been through the process. Like I got a lot of insight about it um that better options that you could go through, like doing community college for 2 years and then afterwards, going to university for the next 2 years because it's more cost friendly. So yeah, just ask for help. I think that nobody should be like afraid of asking for help because counselors, your teachers, your whoever it is, advisors, are there for. Like they're your teacher because they're there for guidance. They're your counselor because they're there to guide you, and they're all aware that you are not gonna know everything. So yeah, that's just my big thing. Just ask as much help as you can. Reach out to people. Email the colleges too. Definitely email colleges. Even if you haven't even applied to this college, email the colleges. See what they're looking for. See like, hey, I'm interested in applying to your college in 2 years or so, or like the next year. It's time for whenever it's time for you to apply to colleges. What are you guys looking for? Or also getting into their summer programs. So a lot of colleges and a lot of universities have a lot of summer programs for you to do. So when you also do like those summer programs, it kind of shows that you're already interested. So that when you are applying, they'll also note that hey, this student was in our this summer program. They attended this. So it does make you seem like, okay, well, more appealing for them to accept into their college. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Something that I realize is that don't be afraid to work with others, like your peers or your classmates that are also doing the same thing. Obviously, make sure it's people that you trust if you're going to ask them to read your essay and give you feedback. But it's not something that you have to go through alone. It's your college application process, but like everything in life, with every big milestone, you need a support system. So having that is really beneficial. And yeah, just picking back off what I said earlier, you're not like everyone else, this is also their first time doing it. So don't be afraid to ask questions or um, don't be afraid of like making a fool out of yourself because you might think like everyone else knows what they're doing because that's just not the reality of the situation. So just making sure that you have an adequate amount of support because it is a very stressful time in our lives when you're applying to school. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I would say just research your schools ahead of time, like actually fully research your schools because you could think you know everything about your school, and then yet when you start applying or you get accepted, you realize that, oh, I didn't know this or that. So I say just keep researching your schools because things can change throughout the months. So just keep researching your schools and like just figure out do I need to know this? What's the cost of this? And just make sure that you know everything up to the point where you make your decision of what school you want to go to because things change like every week for colleges. So just keep up to date on your research and on your colleges and make sure that you know exactly where you want to go with all the information you know before you decide to make your decision and commit to a school.
On my side, I would echo with the points in starting early in different aspects, so whether it be researching the schools or your essays, knowing about the financial aid, like anything revolving the college application process, just starting early with that. Because for example, for your essays, they really do need time for you to really look at them. First of all, maybe writing your first draft and getting a review from your peers or anyone that you know to somehow make comments in your essay and how to make it better. Because if you start late and leave it, let's say, I don't know, let's say a week or a few days to the deadline, then you wouldn't really have the time to carefully look at your essay or even your personal statement, because it really can take time to even think about what idea you want to write or rather base your personal statement on. So starting early in literally anything, it really saves you the stress and you wouldn't really panic towards the end. And I'd say that really does help. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
I would say don't surround your entire life just to the college administration process and don't attach your self-worth to what schools you get into or what schools you don't get into. It's important to have a good balance of the application process and your actual life. And that can be hard at times because it can seem that it's all consuming. It's your next 4 years. It's a huge decision of your life, which school you go to. But don't let that take over yourself, and be able to discern yourself from what schools you're going to, or what schools you may get accepted into, what schools you may get rejected from, what schools you may get waitlisted from. And it's important to realize your worth no matter what the results are, and be able to value yourself at the end of the day.
Thank you guys all for all of the information that you gave for that. I would really like just to echo everything that you guys said, especially Miriam. I think it's just, I don't know, going back to like my own process, it was a very long one. It was very tiring. And I think the things that really helped was just making sure you have connections with people going outside this process. I think the easiest thing is your family, your friends who are either older than you or younger than you. It's really important that you don't lose the things that bring you joy. You don't forget about the things that you like to do when you are applying to college, because this will more likely than not be a longer than shorter process. So it's just really important that you guys take the time to give yourself the rest and to give yourself the stamina that you need to go through all of the aspects when it relates to the scholarship, when it relates to research, when it relates to reaching out to people. It is not going to be done in one day, not even 1 month. So it's really important that you go into that and you're prepared for kind of how long this battle will end up being. But there will be another side, and you guys will all end up, hopefully, like our panelists here, going to amazing schools. And with that being said, we're now done with the formal part of the pre-prepared questions. We have about 20 minutes left. So if you have any questions, feel free to either raise your hand and we'll unmute you so you can speak, or you can send your question in the chat. I'm going to go through right now and just answer the questions that I've seen really early on from the beginning. I'll open them up to our panelists. We'll try to have maybe either one or two people answer them if we feel like you need to, but if just one person suffices, that'll be great. And that getting said, the first question that we have is that should you take both the ACT and the SAT, or choose one for your own benefit?
I would say take both, because a lot of times people take both and figure out which test they like better. I remember I started off taking the SAT multiple times, and then when I did take the ACT, I was like, why did no one tell me about this? Because the SAT is typically like the more common test in the United States. I'm not sure how it works internationally, but definitely take both, because as I said earlier, the skills are transferable. And a lot of times when people are applying to top schools, they submit both. They submit a very high SAT score and a very high ACT score. So if that's something that you'd like to do, it's good to have that option. But I definitely think it's good to take both, or at least just try taking both.
Amazing. Anyone else? All right, that's great. I would also say, in that same vein, oftentimes these tests can be expensive. There are ways to get fee waivers for them, but if you can't get fee waivers for them, taking a practice test for both of them, and I'm talking about like a real practice test where you really try to like sit down, you time yourself, and you're strict with when you're done with each section, and seeing how you do from the very beginning, that might also help illuminate some things for you. If you can only afford to take one test, or you can only plan to take one or two tests maybe, then it's really good that you set yourself up from the beginning. You look at what maybe studying for one test versus studying for the other looks like. As a very simple matter, I would say the ACT has a little bit more, actually, if I remember, it has a little bit more like STEM / math related like things versus and science related, versus the SAT, which is more either math and hard English skills as well. So that's just, I think, on a more general note, something that you can take a look at. All right, moving on to our next question that I see in the chat. Can I apply for scholarships before being accepted into a university?
Yes, you can apply to our scholarships before being accepting to university. The way scholarships work when it's not directly to the university is that, for example, my own personal experience, the Dream It Be It scholarship, I was the recipient of that scholarship. By the time I was my sophomore year in high school. At that time, I'm not applying to colleges. I don't know what college I'm going to. So yeah, when I was a recipient, what will happen is that your counselor or whoever it is in administration will hold on to that paper or hold on to that note that you were the recipient. And when it is time for you to apply for colleges, like now where I finally know where I'm going to and I know my plans are, I will then let the organization, I will then sign the paper of the school that I'm going to, my school ID, and then they will send that money over to my school account. So you are very much allowed to apply to scholarships very, very, very early on. Just make sure the scholarship obviously caters to you, because some scholarships are like for sophomores, are for freshmen, are for juniors as well. So yeah, you are allowed to do that, and just know you don't have to know where you're going to apply to these colleges. Some of the scholarships will ask you like, oh, where are you interested in applying to, or where do you think you'll be going to. You can put wherever you think you're going to. It doesn't have to be for certain. So don't think that, if I put George Washington, then I choose not to go to George Washington 2 years later, my senior year. I'm like, oh no, I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna go to the University of Maryland. Don't think that, oh, I'm not gonna get that money. You are the recipient. Again, the money will be transferred over to your school account. And that's just based on you communicating with the organization, looking into scholarships that cater to you. Also, one thing is when you are kind of young, like sophomore year, 14, or I don't know how old you'd be in sophomore year, but in your sophomore year and your freshman year and sort of your junior year, there's not a lot of scholarships there are, because a lot of scholarships are kind of targeted towards seniors and targeted towards like juniors, just because they're the people who are getting in the process of applying to colleges. So if you're like, oh, like if you're in your sophomore year and below and you're like stressing because you can't find any, don't stress. It's just that a lot of them just cater to juniors and seniors. So that's really it. Like I remember I was in my counseling office always asking about scholarships. I was actually getting told by my college and careers counselor saying that to relax and that she doesn't have a lot to offer me, because again, these organizations have the demographic that they want to appeal to. So, and that I should wait till next year to then apply for them.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And then moving on to our next question, which I think is more targeted towards Doreen. I know you talked briefly about the CSS profile, but essentially this question is, are international students eligible for financial aid? And then if not, could you talk about what the CSS profile entails, at least on a general scale? But yeah.
So for international students, as I mentioned, so you do use the CSS profile. And in the beginning, it's somewhat of a long, not really long process, but there are a couple of questions that you need to get through. So for example, they would mainly ask for your parents' income so that they know like if, what scholarship package to offer you based on like if your family can afford it. So they'd ask you questions surrounding that. Also, as well as the support that your parents who gave you the support that your family contributed over your high school years, so that they know how much have they been paying towards your education and if the same can be available towards your college education. And then also ask you, let's say, the assets that your parents own. So it's all information about the general information regarding your family's income and if your family can afford that. And even for some universities, they use different application methods. So one is the CSS profile, which is more of a general one, but for some, they have a form called the International Students Financial Application Form, short called the ISFA form. And this one is mainly shorter and compared to the CSS profile, because all you have to indicate is what your parents are willing to contribute. So for some, if 0 is the amount, then don't be scared to put 0 if that's the reality of, let's say, your financial situation. Because for some people, they think, let's say, if you put 0, you may not end up getting a scholarship. But really just, show the real, or rather the reality of what your family can contribute, because that would be in your benefit at the end of the day, so that you can actually get the scholarship package that would match, your family's ability. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Moving on to our next question. How can family members or parents help you within the process?
I think having your family's input is very important, and they can help in the sense that like they know you the most because they have obviously lived with you for your entire life. So they could be like, oh, I don't think you'd be happy going this far from your home, or let's think about like the extracurriculars you've been involved in the past couple of years, and how the schools that you're applying to will give you kind of like the same sense that like of what you've enjoyed the past couple of years, so they can just give you guidance with those little things. And when you need input, like, oh, this school has this, but this school has this, which do you think I should choose? They can give you that type of input. So yeah.
Amazing.
If it's coming from a family perspective of how the family member can help the student, like if you're a parent at wondering how you can help the student, do your own research also. Like do your own research on the universities that you think that your child is interested in applying to. So asking if it's like maybe your first time, you don't know anything about the college process, definitely you email these schools, you ask all these questions. If you're worried about financial aid, you talk to these schools about financial aid. These colleges have an email, they have an email that you can reach out, they have phone numbers that you can reach out to for international, they have an international line as well, and they have in this, in a state line as well. So again, if you're new to the process as like a parent or an older sibling, or whoever you are to the student who's about to be applying to colleges, reach out on your own end, coming from a family member or coming from whoever you are, and express that, hey, this is my first time, I need help. Also, you can become very like active in that part of the time, meaning like also reaching out to your child's school counselors so that you can get emails on like opportunities that you can help your student, your child, whoever, apply to and stuff like that. So definitely you can also reach out. Don't leave it. It is a lot for the student to do all on their own. So I would say that I had a lot of help with that because I kind of had like an inside view with like GW specifically because I actually had like my sister-in-law who went to that school. So she gave me insight on that as well. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I think the biggest thing as well, which is a really important thing, is that money is a really important factor in a lot of these things. Scholarships obviously will be really important, but I think just really communicating with your child about when they're planning, what schools they're looking at, and just like what kind of scholarships they'll need to end up having if they want to go to those schools, I think is just a really important thing, both in law school and in undergrad. I think oftentimes it's really important that you just make sure that you are as transparent as possible so that way they know what they can expect when they're even deciding what schools they want to apply for. If they know like they're not going to necessarily have like the most support, then they're probably not going to apply to a school, like across the country per se, or they'll probably try to apply to a school that has a lot more financial aid opportunities or ones that do try to give a need match kind of financial aid opportunity. And for that, I think those are tend to be a little bit more on the top schools, but they often do really try to be as need accessible as possible. All right, moving on to the next question, which I can touch on briefly. I know we have a good amount of questions, so I want to make sure we get through all of them in time. And then, Doreen, if there's anything else that you'd like to add for it, please feel free. Is it more difficult for international students to apply to public universities in the US because some have a difference in financial aid distributed to native and international students, or is it just okay? I think as a blanket state for any public US institution, they have a like mandatory amount of students that they have to accept, one just based on their state. For instance, University of Maryland and the University of North Carolina, I think they have very strict requirements that like a certain amount of students must come from Maryland or must come from North Carolina, which then makes it so that international students have less of a percentage in there. However, for all of these schools, they normally do publish their percent of international students. So that is a really good place to look. I think one that I'm thinking of is NYU has one of the highest amount of international students at their school. So it's really good to just take a look at the school and see what percentage of international students have they accepted in the past before you actually go and apply. And Doreen, if there's anything else you'd like to add, please feel free.
So just staying on what you've said, is really looking into the university because for some they mainly need aware towards international students. So really seeing, so that means they would have a limit in some way or another depending on the financial aid that you require. So again, once again, just going to the university and even reaching out to the financial aid offices and seeing how the financial aid on your side would look like. So I think it's really important. Like, don't be scared to reach out to the financial aid offices because they would be your main source of information in case of any inquiries.
All right, amazing. And then moving on to our next question, what are some extracurricular activities and projects do you think that will make a 14 to 18-year-old stand out, especially then as an international student? Doreen, again, sadly, you'll probably have to answer this one again, but also if anyone else has any insight into just things that will make someone stand out, please feel free to add.
I would say really involving yourself in something that you're passionate about, so your interest, and not really doing them for the sake of, making your application look good. So I'd say having more of a diverse list. So for example, having if you consider yourself to be a leader, it's really good to have those opportunities where you can gain experiences, different leadership opportunities. For example, at your school, if you can be the president of your school or class representative. So, having those leadership positions at times can look good on your application. But on the other hand, sports as well can be really good. So if you're someone who really loves doing sports as well, also being able to take some leadership positions in the sports that you play, for example, being captain or, some sort of things like that. But another thing I'd say also starting something. Let's say if you have a passion, let's say in, I don't know, let's say arts, like let's say you love arts, and you could start an initiative where you teach, let's say, your community or your community of the children in your community how to paint or some sort of that. So having those projects that show that you're an initiator, so you love to start things or you make a difference in the lives of others, really does do make you stand out. And again, doing things that you feel like you generally like what you do and you do have a passion for them. So there's not really specific one that I can say, oh, if you do music, let's say play an instrument, then that will make you stand out. But it's just, something that you believe you're passionate about it, and putting the effort, I believe you can make it great. But big emphasis on, starting things yourself. So if you can start I don't know, a project, or do an internship, volunteer at organizations, those are, pretty good.
Amazing. Anyone else want to tune in? All right, great. Moving on, somewhat on the same note, but also applicable for everyone. How do you demonstrate your genuine interest in a field/major you choose? How can you really show the university that this is the one you truly want? I can actually get started on this one, and then if anyone else wants to add on, please feel free. I think something that will help you out in figuring out this process is to know that you don't have to know 120% this is the path you want to go down. You should just make sure that you show that you've had an interest in it. One really easy way to do this is to just be really consistent in the thing that you've done. So if there is this one club that you tried out freshman year that you did like, well, first thing I'd recommend is you tried a bunch of things your first year or even your second year in high school. And then once you figure out the things that you really do like and the things that you really do enjoy, continue going down things in that similar path. So if there's a club, and I can give an example for me, I really enjoyed mock trial. So after the first year, I stayed within mock trial. I ended up doing speech and debate as well. And then after moving forward from that, I also took classes that were related to trial and that were related to speech and debate. So once you know from a foundation, this is something that genuinely excites you, then you can now add on extracurriculars and classes as well when you get more flexibility of things that actually give you that interest. I also think it's important to note that it's not going to be perfect, and these schools don't expect you to be perfect. At the end of the day, you're applying when you're 17/18 years old. That is a very early time in your life, and you're obviously going to change a lot. But it's just making sure that you have that foundational interest, and that can really be shown by you having a proven track record of either being in one club for multiple years, doing a type of class for multiple times in a row, or working with that teacher as well. So let's say if you really liked mock trial or you really liked speech and debate, there's a class that teaches that. Maybe your letter to recommendation, that should be from a professor who saw you in that specific field. So then they can really speak to, again, I saw them do this interest that they had. It was clear that they were passionate about it because of X, Y, and Z. I think those are the best ways that you can really demonstrate and show the interest that you have to a university. And yeah, anyone else want to add on to that?
Internships will very much show you're interested in something. I will say the internship that I did was far off from what I am majoring now, but I also think that when it comes to, I understand that you're trying to do something that appeals to the college that shows that you're interested in your major and stuff like that. But also it's very important that you do these internships and join these clubs before your own gain as well, because through that internship I was able to tell what I didn't want to do because I got to experience it. And it's very different from studying about it and hearing about it from other people's perspective about what you're interested in doing, but you will really never know until you're the one who's doing it. So when I did the internship in this field that I thought I wanted to go into, I realized that it's cool, it's calm, and I like it, but I just don't think it's the right fit for me. So don't get too caught up in, OMG, like I did this internship, I wasted all this time because I don't even want to do this anymore. Like, don't think that way. Really just think of it more about, okay, great, because it's only going to make your path more clear. At first, it's going to be a little confusing because it's like, I thought I wanted to do this and now I'm doing it and now I don't like it. But no, I think it's very like clarifying because then you're kind of like, you know what you don't want to do. Like, very much, I did not know what I wanted to do for the longest amount of time, but I knew what I didn't want to do. And by knowing what I didn't want to do, I knew where I should be. I knew where not to bother looking at, you know? I knew what wasn't meant for me. And so again, by experiencing these clubs and by doing these internships, and if you're having trouble looking for internships, I know specifically if you're in the Montgomery County area, they have a lot of internships, but also reach out to your counselors again, your counselors, your school administration. They have a lot of organizations that are waiting for students to like, come and ask them about it. Go on Google, look in the area that you are in. If you're living in a different state or a different country, look at like internships in this area, actually go to facilities, like go to banks. Like if you want to do something that has like to do with economics, I would say, or something like the bank area, go to these banks, ask them like, hey, do you guys do any internships? I don't think that this is like something that you can do this anywhere, wherever you're at, go to these places. If you're wanting to do something that has to do in like doctor and like nurses, going to the health profession, go to hospitals, ask them about it. Say, hey, do you guys do any internships or like anything that I can like programs for like students who are interested in going and pursuing this like career field? They'll let you know about what is the requirement to be able to do it and all that type of stuff. So definitely don't just wait for them to come to you. And like Google can also be very like broad about it. So go to these places and like show up and like ask them like, hey, I'm looking for an internship, I'm really interested in this, who can I speak to that has information about all this? And I 90% very much can confirm that they will give you information. They'll even maybe tell you that it's a little too early, that you should wait until your junior year to come back and ask them again. But that's even good because then when you're coming back your junior year to ask them about this, you could say, hey, last year I spoke to this person about this. I showed interest then. I'm back here my junior year. And so, asking for information. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. All right. And then our next question is for Nyla specifically. Are there any medicine scholarship programs that you know of or applied to? Because I understand that universities don't often offer scholarships for people on the pre-med track, perchance.
I did not apply to any specific medical scholarships, but I did apply for scholarships in my county that I was able to receive. But no, to answer your question, I did not apply to any specific medical scholarships, but I know that again with the search engines, if you try and like narrow down like who you are and if that's like an interest of yours, I'm sure you can find one there.
All right, amazing. Next question. I do want to make sure that I get as many different people who've been asking questions. So I saw that like I'm just going to try to make sure that at least if everyone gets a chance to ask one question, that we can try to get to that. So I'm going to move down a little bit. If I'm currently in my first year at university in Tanzania, is it necessary to include my coursework during the application process?
I'm not an international student, so I will want to say that's kind of a question I feel like you should ask the university and explain the situation. Like, hey, I'm an international student. I'm my first year at blank university. Do you require me to send in the courses that I've taken? Because also money wise, some schools have an international program, so they actually do like study abroad program. So maybe if you're going to this school that has a study abroad program, you're able to transfer these credits for when you want to come to the States to go to that school. And so it kind of saves you time and kind of money, so you're not having to repeat a class that you already took your first year in your university. So that specific question, being that none of us went to university in a different country, I will want to say that specific question, email the college, email the admissions, whatever, search up the email for that college that you're looking at and ask them, what do they require? What information do they require? Do they require what you're asking about? So the courses and stuff like that, because that is for them to know. And I also don't want to tell you something and then the university may be like, no, we don't need it, or maybe they do need it. So go and ask them, but I want to say I probably do think that they would, because even now high school, they ask for our high school courses. And I did dual enrollment, so they did even ask for my dual enrollment classes that I took at my community college. So yeah, just email the college specifically and ask them, just so you can get a definite answer.
Yeah, definitely echoing that, emailing them will be the best one because some colleges definitely vary for that. All right, and then moving on, when do you recommend that you start applying for colleges? Is it after you get your high school grades or before, like mid 12th grade?
Okay, so I was already answering this question. For me, I started doing it during the summertime. Well, sorry if you hear my dad in the background, but I started applying during the summertime while I already had certain grades, because when you're they don't ask for your fall transcripts for your 12th grade year until after the first semester is done. So like say you get put, if you do early action and you get moved to the regular decision, they'll ask for your fall grades after after your fall grades are already submitted. But for me, during the summertime, they ask for your grades from your past, from like 8th grade to 11th grade. And then when you put in your 12th grade grades, you can just say it's in progress. And then once your full year is over and you commit to a school, then they'll ask for your full grade from 10th grade. They'll ask for that transcript at the end. But for me, I'd say apply during the summertime so you can like start getting a head start. And once you start getting like your 12th grade grades, then you start adding them into your college application process. But at the very end, your high school will send your full transcript, like your full year transcript, to your college at the very end. So they'll still get all your 12th grade grades. They'll get your whole year at the very end, either way. So you can start. It also depends on where you want to like submit your, if you want to do like early decision, early action, or regular decision. It all depends on that. So for me, I did early action, so I had to get a really head start because my deadline was in November. It wasn't in like March or whatever. It was in November, so I had to get a really head start. So it really depends on where you want to like submit your application. If you want to do early decision, you have an earlier deadline. If you want to do early action, you have a little later but still early deadline. And then regular decision, you have like the longest deadline you have. So it really just depends on where you want to submit your application. So I would say if you want to do early action or regular or early decision, do it during the summertime. That's like the longest you can have to do your application process. But if you want to do regular decision, I say in the middle of your 12th grade year or even in the summertime as well, if you want to get like a early head start.
All right, thank you so much. And that actually moves just into our last question, which I'll be more than happy to answer. I think it's important that, in case people don't know, there are essentially three main decision points that you'll have to worry about or know about when you go through this process. As Jayla mentioned, the very first one is called early action. Early action is essentially you apply to a school ahead of time than normal. Some schools vary in when that early action actual date is, but from November to about the start of January is often when you would expect there to be an early action for a school. All that means is that you're sending your application materials earlier to them, and then you'll get a response earlier. Where some people might not hear back from the school until around March or April. If you do early action, you're guaranteeing that you'll get a response sometimes as early as December if you're applying in November, or as early as, end of January/February if you're applying later. The next one is regular decision. Regular decision is oftentimes around that January point as well, or the very start of February. That is, you're going to get their decision later on in the cycle. So you could expect around March or April is when you'll hear back from them. That is normally, I think, also like perfectly fine, no matter which one you do. There was a question about, does one increase your chances of being accepted? I would love for other people to tune in on this one as well. I will be more than happy to also answer from what I know. But before I get to that, the last one that I think is really important to note is called early decision. Early decision is a binding acceptance. So you will also do it early in November, December, also in January, you can do early decision. But if you get into that school, you're saying that you're going to go no matter what, 100%. Oftentimes, it's not recommended that you do early decision for a school unless that is like your top school that you really want to go to. You don't care how much money they'll give you, you will say yes no matter what. That is the only time I'd ever recommend doing early decision. And even then, if it is your top school, sometimes you might be better off applying in the regular decision for that school, just so you don't have to worry necessarily about getting trapped with a school that you literally cannot afford, because oftentimes what will happen is that if you get accepted to a school early decision, you have to withdraw all of your applications to every other school that you applied to and put your deposit down essentially immediately after. So unless that is a position that you're really able to be in, I necessarily wouldn't recommend that. In terms of your chances for early decision, there is definitely an increase. If you say that you're going to go to the school no matter what, that looks better. However, it's once again a very big look on your other side, so it's not always recommended. For early action versus regular decision, I think, at least from what I know, they're not that significantly different. If it's a really competitive school to get into, early action versus regular decision are going to be equally as competitive. Some would say even the earlier one might be more competitive because the people who are also applying early are the people who've been going through and doing a lot of work versus people who are applying regular might not be nearly as competitive. But if other people want to tune in on that distinction between applying early versus regular, please feel free to.
I would say that, like Raja said, if you do early decision, you definitely have a higher chance of getting into your college, like on that, because you're basically saying that this is my school. Like, I'm gonna go to it. Like, there's no other school in my mind. You're my school, I'm gonna go. So they're obviously gonna be like, okay, they're more determined. They're gonna come to my school then. They're gonna get accepted. But for early action and regular decision, it's really much the same thing. You're just getting, for early action, you're just getting a decision earlier. It's not really saying that you're like, oh, because I did it earlier, that I'm gonna get into the school more easier because not everyone else has to like put their application in. That's not really true. It's just saying that, oh, I just want my decision earlier. But yeah, you're gonna get you're gonna get attention from the college because you did it earlier, but you can easily get like deferred into regular decision. That's what happened to me with my top school. I did early action, but I still ended up getting deferred into regular decision, and then you still end up getting waitlisted. So it's not really saying, oh, if I do early action, I have a higher chance of getting into the college. It's really just the same thing as regular decision, because you can get moved to regular decision from doing early action. But if you do early action, you get your decision earlier, which means that you can either be like, oh, if I got admitted, that means you have like a longer chance of deciding if you want to get into that college or not. Like if you want to commit there or not. If you do more, if you do regular decision, you have like a little less time for your decision. But actually, early action gives you more time to make your decision more than regular decision does.
Yeah, definitely echoing all of that was said. Anyone else want to go?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, for quickly, when it comes to early action, what I've heard from when I went to the, like when I had school and I've heard like, them speak, and this question actually has came up from students at my high school and the students who were like, there. I will say that I've heard that from the college admission themselves, they do encourage students do early action. They encourage it, but again, it's not like a big difference, but the colleges do, again, they do encourage it. And if you really want to know for sure, I think early action is more of like a safe route for you to do. Like it's really safe because you're doing it early, you're going to get a response early and all that. And with colleges, again, like really encouraging students to do that, I would say go ahead with it. Don't wait till regular decision, sorry, whichever one it was. I got to mix that up to do that. So, but if you are unsure, again, email the college, ask them about it, because some colleges may actually, may care more about early action than they do about regular action and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. I think another point too is some schools actually do a lot more in their early action versus regular decision too. I think one school that I know for a fact comes to mind is Northeastern. They accept like I would say like 50% of their class from early action versus regular decision. So I think you should look at the stats of the school and see that as well. And I know Miriam, you had something you wanted to add as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna say early decision, while you can like research the actual number and see the difference of the acceptance rate, because a lot of times like the acceptance rate will like look higher, like it can be like a 6% acceptance rate. But when you apply early decision, not action, it will go up to like maybe 12%. And you may think that was an advantage, but there is a slight disadvantage to early decision, is that most of the most hardworking, the most people who have been who have been in this college application process since they're freshmen with like the insane resumes, they usually apply early decision and early action. So your application will be put against the hardest of the hard when you do early decision. So it doesn't exactly mean that you have a higher chance of getting in. It's just that the acceptance rate is higher because all of those really talented people are applying early decision, and that you should also take into account when you're choosing early decision or early action, because the binding aspect is really serious as well. So don't just look at the higher acceptance rate and think, okay, I should apply early decision, because it is binding and it is difficult as well.
Yeah, it's binding, and these colleges have no guarantee to give you any money. So, like, unless some schools actually do, they say that like if you do early decision, you're guaranteed to get $20,000 at the minimum. A lot of schools don't though, so doing that research is great. I see that we're 4 minutes past time, and I want to be respectful both of the panelists' time as well as all of our guests who came to talk and listen to you guys. So, from my side, thank you all again for coming and listening to us, and I would give it over to the founder again of SCC to just give us any final remarks before we close out for today.
Well, thank you. I want to say thank you to our amazing student speakers. We hear what they went through, what the do and don't. They also be able to share their experience for admission to university. So thank you. I just wanted to add a little bit more, like 3 out of our speakers today, they also did their service learning. They did extracurricular activity for volunteering, and they were able to volunteer in Tanzania. So I just wanted to add that if you're diaspora students and maybe you're visiting your home country, it's good sometimes, maybe in the summer vacation, you go to visit your uncle, your auntie, make sure that at least you put some time to do service work where you're going to vacation, especially overseas, because that will help you during your writing your essay. So at least you could tell that experience of activity during your college application or your statements. And thank you, everyone. Thank you everyone who was able to log in and watch an amazing question. And thanks next time. And this is our first webinar, so hopefully next year I might have another one. So thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And we were gonna share since this recording is this session is recording, so we're gonna put it on YouTube so we can share for everybody, the ones who are unable to attend. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ahmed Abdullah. I'm currently living in the state of Georgia, and this is my last year of high school. So far, I have 2 options, either go to the military or straight to college. My number 1 choice is the military. I picked the military because I would like the ability to train and become mentally and physically stronger. Also, the benefits that come with it, such as paying for my tuition 100% and other great benefits. When people think of the military, they just think of the horror stories. But based on my research, as well as my dad's lessons of being a veteran in the military, it taught me that there are branches. There's different types of branches in the military. That means different types of groups. There's Navy, there's Air Force, there's Army, there's Marines, and there's Space Air Force. And with these branches, there's some of them that you will get into without facing horrific incidents. For example, the Air Force, which is something I want to get into. And the Air Force, you're just basically controlling the skies, you're monitoring the skies, you're gathering intelligence, you're conducting global strikes, you're providing rapid transport. But if you don't want to do any of those, the Air Force still has civilian jobs. It's basically a regular job, like a regular, 9 to 5, but the military is basically, you're going into the military, you're getting lots of benefits while having a regular job or having a very fun job. You can choose which job you want to pick. And in order to go into the military, you have to take a test. And the test is called ASVAB. And you have to pass in order to get accepted. Well, how you pass? You have to score a 31 in order to get into the Army, the Navy, and the Marines. But with the Air Force, you have to score a 51. Right now, I already took my ASVAB, and I'm waiting for the results. But once I get my results, and once I pass, I'll be assigned to a recruiter, and he'll walk me through the next steps. So basically, my recruiter is going to give me a list filled with jobs that are under what I can do or what I can manage. and I have to pick a job. So with my experience and what other people told me and what I've researched, you have to research your MOS. MOS is basically the job you picked. Research before you pick the job, because if you do not like the job, you will not be able to change it for the rest of your time in the military. And once I get accepted, once I pick my job, I'll be deployed to a different state. So in the Air Force, you're going to be deployed to Texas. What are you going to be doing in Texas? BMT. That's called basic training. So you're going to be training for 8 weeks. It's not going to be you. It's not just going to be you. It's going to be a lot of more people there to guide you. They're going to help you, push you through what you're about to go through. They're going to train you physically and mentally, which is something that I'd really want to go into so it could help me better, and I'll have a successful future becoming more responsible and more disciplined. After the basic training, you're going to go into tech school, which is called a military occupational school. And you're going to be studying about your job for 6 months to a year. Then after that, you're going to your job. You're going to start going to different places. You're going to start traveling. You're going to start making new connections. And this is if you like traveling. So you're going to be doing what you want to do. Not what you want to do, but what your job wants you to do in the military. So my plan is to go to the military while attending college. So I already got admitted to a few universities, but my choice is Kennesaw State University, and I'm going to complete my IT degree there. The military really wants this. If you're 17 like me, they're going to guide you to go into the military. They want you to go into the military to help you finish out your degree because they're paying for it. And I'm really looking forward into that. In the terms of financial aid and scholarships, my advisor assisted me throughout the whole entire process. So basically, you just have to fill out a financial aid application and your parent's signature is required. Then you get approved, and then you start using your funds once you start college. With scholarships, there's 2 scholarships in Georgia. I'm not sure in any other state, but there's 2 scholarships: Hope Scholarship and Zell Miller's Scholarship. With Hope Scholarship, you have to have a 3.0, and that's it. You have to have a 3.0, and you'll be able to get that scholarship. And what they do is that scholarship's gonna be able to help you pay for 80% of your tuition. But in the military, they're gonna pay 100% of your tuition. With Zell Millership, you have to have a 4.0 scholarship, and you have to have all A's and B's, and you can't have more than 5 absences. And those are the only 2 scholarships. There's more scholarships if you go to Google and then search up scholarships. There's different types of scholarships. I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to get like scholarship for asthma, scholarship for just being a single child. You'll get that scholarship as well. And that's how you get, financial aid and scholarships. Thank you all so much, and I hope you found this seminar hosted by Sakapala Community Center helpful to embark your journey. Thank you.